absolutely beautiful morning. I'm back on Sark. You'll notice I'm wearing the same clothes still. Yes. So I'm back home and I'm back on Sark, but my darling Dizzle, the love of my life, my beautiful, beautiful, beautiful man that I desperately want to see, has got COVID and I can't go home. So hopefully he's going to test negative this morning or tomorrow and then I can go back. But yeah, I've got a... still hasn't ended. I'm still in my clothes, still living out of my rucksack and still walking. So I arrived back in Sark yesterday and it's gloriously beautiful. It's really lovely to be back. The real world is knocking, so today it's back to the laptops and admin world. But I thought this morning I got up and saw what a beautiful day it was. I thought I'm going to go for a lovely long walk and begin my day with a constitutional. And it's just a glorious morning, so I think I'm going to go for a swim. And it'll be nice to chat about what I learned from the pilgrimage. So I'll be sharing a bit of that with you this morning. So the main thing that I learnt from the pilgrimage and the things that came up were very much linked to my runes and my cards that I pulled for the walk. So the first rune that I pulled was Alges, which is like that, a stick with 3 spikes at the top, and it's a rune of protection. But it also looks like antlers, and it does represent the elk. And so if you imagine you've got huge antlers and they're going up into the air and you can feel the wind blowing through them and incredibly sensitive. And it felt like for the pilgrimage that was what I was working with, trying to be as open and as sensitive as I possibly could and really feeling the energy lines, feeling the atmosphere, feeling the land, feeling ways to listen and communicate with her, feeling ways of listening and communicating with my fellow pilgrims, and boundaries and what's right for me, listening to and feeling into what I need and what because the eclipses came up and also it was Virgo season going into Libra season, so it was all about balance and but like what makes your heart light. So I've come back feeling very clear about things that I'm not up for anymore, and very clear about things that what are my boundaries and how I can be best of service in a kind of Virgo-y way, and where I need to call in my energy and make sure I'm not being a martyr and that kind of thing. So that was really useful. But it means that you're protected because you're so sensitive, that you're so present, that you're always aware of what's going on and you're not going to get tripped up or caught out by some predator because you're so sensitive to your surroundings. And that felt lovely to be with that, and I felt safe. It made me feel safe as well. But I did have the death card, which was like unnerving, and I spent a lot of the first part of the walk just being really like, God, I don't want something massive to happen, because it doesn't always mean death, it can. And I was like, I don't want anyone to die, and I don't want to die, and I don't want anything massive to happen because everything in my life is so wonderful right now. So I don't want to be the first walk, my life completely changed and it was brilliant. I'm so glad that it did. And that was the tower. I had the tower a lot with that moment in time. But yeah, I was just like, I don't want that level of upheaval again right now. Everything's great. So I was kind of openly looking at what that meant and was a bit nervous at the beginning. But then about halfway through, it was week 3, the key kind of moment in the pilgrimage for me happened, which was we went to a performance in Stoke-on-Trent, which I feels a really special place, actually. Both times I've been there, it's felt really special, even though it's really run down and it's really very in low, it's degradation, you know, low economy. It's really not a thriving place, but also kind of is. There's an amazing community there, and but they were fighting the first time we went there for this brownland site that had been part of the Wedgwood mining land, and so there's like bits of Wedgwood pottery all over the floor and stuff, but they were fighting to stop this industrial park being built over it, and we were really glad to see that it was still there when we got there this year. Just like Rybank Fields in Manchester, we're really happy to see that that was still there. So these community spaces that people are fighting to keep. And yeah, Stoke-on-Trent, I always used it as a contrast between there and Winchester, where Winchester's like, Winchester College doesn't like the bypass, so they get rid of it and turn it into a wildflower meadow field. And they've got the cleanest river in the UK, which is beautiful, the Itchen River. I'm so in love with her. Ellen runs through, oh God, she's just like elf water, it's magic. But they get to have all that because they're wealthy. And then Stoke-on-Trent are fighting tooth and nail just to be able to be keeping a shitty bit of old mining land. It's like, how could you expect like the working classes to give a shit about the environment, or when they're basically worrying about how they're going to eat, you know, and they haven't got access to organic food and green spaces and clean rivers, and so there's nothing for them to treasure. Like, what is it that they're treasuring? The pavement and, you know, Greg's. It's not like there's any butterflies or, you know, bird songs around them, or so. Yeah, I just think that that's like a contrast, basically. But we went there, and there was this old shopping precinct that was like a really 80s shopping precinct. The ones with like balconies and kind of real brutal architecture, and it, as is the way the high streets are, you know, dying. There was lots of empty shops, but the guy who owned it had let loads of community groups take over the shops. So there was loads of local produce shops, and there was this beautiful after school club that my friend ran called the Mooney Club, and she invited us to come perform. And we thought that we were performing inside, and then she was like, oh no, out in the shopping precinct. And we were like, oh, okay. Really like the opposite of anywhere else we'd been. And it was brilliant. It was so good. And loads of the like local kids and that and teenagers all stopped and watched it, and they loved it because it's full of knob gags, our play. So even if, no matter how much of a like cynic you are, there's stuff in there that'll make you laugh, because it's just silly panto and yeah, really silly jokes. And everyone loved it. And we really enjoyed the performance. And afterwards, this guy said, oh, you should go and... Because I said to him, we're while camping and we're going to be heading to this village, which I can't remember where it was. By this point, I was in a completely liminal space. I didn't know where I was or what day of the week it was. And he said, oh, you should go stay at the Hayes. And I looked it up, and it wasn't... it was north of the village, and we were always sort of heading south. So I was like, well, we'll probably be looking for somewhere more south. So we didn't talk about it anymore. But then when it actually came to us leaving, it was getting dark, and we'd had a bit of an emotional day, and we just wanted to go and find somewhere to sleep. And we looked at public transport to get to this village because it was too late for us to walk, and it was all along a busy road. And it was like one of those things where you'd have to go all the way in and then go all the way out. So it was like 2 hours to get somewhere that was really close, or a 15-minute taxi ride. So we were just like, we're done, we're knackered, let's just get a taxi. And it means we can put the bike in a taxi and we can just go. So, because my friend, one of them was on the bike, and so we got a taxi, and I was like, well, all I know is there's a place called the Hayes. You know, it's north, but if we're just going somewhere, then we could just go there. So we went there, and it was a driveway, and by this time it's tipping down with rain, it's dark, and me and Joanne are like, okay, we'll just go up and see what the case is. And we go up, and there's this mansion, and there's just a garden in front of it. And it's like, we can't just like go camp on the garden. We'll have to go speak to the people who live in the house. And randomly, we wouldn't have been able to get in this house if this woman hadn't been there, because there wasn't any obvious way of, like, no doorbell or whatever, to get in. And this woman was standing there, and we said to her, oh, hi, this is really random. But we're travelling players, and we wild camp as we're going along, and we just performed in Stoke-on-Trent, and we met this guy. And he said to try here. I don't know if that makes any sense to you. Is there any chance we can camp in your garden? And she said, that's really weird. because 100% that this is the right place for you, and yes, you should be able to stay here. This is an art collective that's been here since the 60s, and it's we would always welcome in people like yourself with open arms. It's literally why this place was created. But my mother's 92 and my sister's been running this with her for the last 20 years, but my sister's now really, really ill, and me and my other sister are here basically to say goodbye to her, and I don't know whether it's the right time. And we were like, okay, yeah, that's not absolutely fair enough. Yeah, we don't want to be a bother. And she was like, no, but I also feel like this is somehow right. Let me go speak to my mum. So she went off, and then her other sister came out. She's like, what's going on? We sort of explained everything to her again. She was like, yeah, hang on, let me just go speak to my mum. They both went, and then they came back and they were like, so mother's reaction was, are they going to perform? And so, yeah, absolutely, you can stay tonight, but the payment is you perform for us tomorrow morning. So we stayed the night, camped in the garden, and then the next morning it was brilliant sunshine, and the 92-year-old mother and the other elderly artist who'd been living there since the 60s all came out, sat in the garden, and we performed for them. And they had the picture of Rosie, who's the woman who was ill, who was dying, in a framed picture on the table, and they filmed it for her so they could show it to her in hospital. And they were crying afterwards, and they were just like, this is so perfect, and thank you so much for coming, because it kind of, you know, at this really sad moment, it also reminded them of what Rosie's life had been about, and what a brilliant place they'd had, and this space that they'd held, and how amazing it was. And so when I walked away from there, I was like, that was the death card. And then throughout, I then started thinking more along those lines, and realising and remembering that, you know, the walks that I've done, I've gone there and back again in 4 directions, had been because of grief. And I was there, you know, I set off grieving my friend Lee, who died, and then a year later my friend Matthew died, April Fool's Day. And I associate people who died as birds, and on April Fool's Day I'd gone walking around Sark, and I'd asked Matthew what bird he wanted to be, and then I'd seen a pheasant feather coming out of a bush, and I thought, oh wicked, there's a pheasant feather, I was going to go pick it up. And then I saw it attached to this eye, and it was like peering up at me through the grass, and I was like, okay Matthew, you get to be a pheasant, which is funny because he was really big and ginger, and pheasants are just big ginger birds, and whenever they run along it looks like Matthew streaking. It always makes me laugh. So another thing that's beautiful, I kept seeing goldfinches, which I associate with Lee. Robins, my granddad, I saw them lots, and thrushes wrens, sorry, are my nanny. And I kept seeing them, and I saw them all the way along. But yeah, at the end of the pilgrimage, having kind of thought about all these things and the association with death, went up to the space Culver Down, Culver Haven, where we were doing the closing ceremony for the pilgrimage and for these 4, you know, this body of work. And there was a pheasant streaking across. I was like, oh, there's Matthew. And what's lovely is I just came back to Sark, and when I was just walking along there, and I saw the horses, and I took a picture to send to Liska, who's one of the pilgrims, because we play a game called Horse or Cow, where if you see a horse or a cow, you just have to shout it out. 10 points for seeing horses, not for each horse, just for seeing horses, and 5 points for seeing cows, and it's whoever shouts it first. All other animals don't exist. And so I took a photo of the horse and sent it to a gang horse, and as I did so, the pheasant went, which is lovely, because also it makes me feel like I'm in the right place. This is where I'm meant to be. You know, the omens are still coming, and the ancestors are still with me. And it's obviously, you know, Samhain, it's the point where we're closest, the veils are thinnest, and I still have my loved ones around me, supporting me and egging me on. And yeah, I just feel my takeaway from all of it, there's a little snail there as well, which is my totem animal, being a rucksack on my back and walking across the land, the sign of the pilgrim, the totem animal of the pilgrim. My takeaway is how amazing it is to be alive. You know, we walked, we were in pain, we smelt like dirty lunch boxes, got trench foot, and ached, and had a bad night's sleep, and carried heavy bags and all these things. But thank you, body, for getting to have those experiences, and for all the other beautiful, pleasurable experiences, all the delicious food I ate, all the lovely hugs I got, all the beautiful smiles I saw and met, and the companionship and you washing machine of emotions that comes from walking with your fellow pilgrims, and all the things that you get to experience from being alive. Heather, who's the wife of Matthew, got visited by Matthew after he died. And she said, what's it like on the other side? First of all, he said, well, Einstein's not happy with me. She said, oh, why is that? And he goes, oh, I've been spending a lot of time with his sister. Afterwards, we looked up what Einstein... Well, first of all, Heather didn't even know he had a sister, nor did I. And then we looked up what she looked like. And she looks just like Heather. Like, how... That's... For me, that's like, okay, yeah, how... I don't know how to explain that. That's really weird. And then... The other thing he said is just enjoy being alive. And he didn't mean that in a like, dun, 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 because it's awful on the other side. He just, what I got from that, what Heather got from that was like, you don't get to have this. You don't get to taste. You don't get to fuck. You don't get to breathe fresh air. You don't get to ache. You don't get to sleep. You don't get to dream. You don't get to, you just are the ether. You just are part of everything. And being able to feel rock and feel cold and feel the sun on your face and this earth, this physical earth, this manifestation, the land, the actual experience of being on this planet, you get for 70 years and then forever you're not. So make the most of it. Enjoy the ride. The ultimate finishing line is death. The ultimate ride is life. So enjoy the journey, enjoy the ride, and yeah, it's what pilgrimaging is all about. So that's what I take away from all of this, and want to continue developing and listening to the land. I have ideas and dreams for doing more walks. It will be a different body of work. I feel like this is a completed piece of energy work and geomancy, land magic. I'm writing a book and I'd love you to read it. I'm really excited about it. I've written a good chunk of it, so I should hopefully get it done as soon as possible. And there's much more to come. So the last rune was Uraz, which I don't normally feel that connected to. I'd probably say I feel least connected to it out of all the runes, but I feel very differently about it now. It's the rune of strength. It's the ox, and it's about strength. So whenever I've pulled it, I'm just like, strength. And I got that as the last rune. I thought that was really weird for the end of the pilgrimage. I kind of was expecting something a bit more epic than that. But actually, oh my God, I love it. I love it now. I've come back feeling amazing. And every other pilgrimage so far, I've come back broken. I mean, the one to COP26, listening to the land, it took me 6 months to get better from that. I was so broken after that. It was such a huge amount of energy work in terms of like trying to keep 28 people alive, thinking about climate change solidly for 7 weeks, and then turning up to a conference where you just know that literally fuck all's being done, and feeling the pain and the anguish of the earth, and connecting with her, and connecting with how much she loves us and how much she supports us and forgives us and holds us and wants us to be the prodigal child. She doesn't want us to wipe, that whole like, oh, if we all die out, it'll be better, because no mother wants that. No mother wants the kids to just, I'll be better if I'm gone. That's like, you're a child committing suicide. Even if it's been fucking awful, you'd prefer that child to realise and make amends. Of course you would. That's really important. Like, that was what was learnt from that pilgrimage. We have to make amends. We have to. But yeah, to come away from this pilgrimage and feel this strong, I feel boundaried, I feel confident. I feel confident about my money and my work, which I didn't. That was like kind of my intention, my request. The thing that I was like, oh, there has to be a death. The death I would like, and actually I'm just saying this for the first time now, the death I would like is the death of the sort of fear of, not having enough and not knowing what I'm doing, and like and not I feeling like I wasn't fulfilling somehow what I should be doing, and I don't feel like that. I feel really powerful, and I feel up for the next fight. I'm up for the next thing, so bring it on. I feel like a fucking powerhouse, and I feel the goddess in me. I feel a facet of the goddess. I feel the power of all the other facets, which is you and all the other beings on this planet. I feel the power of all of you within me and behind me and as part of me, and I feel the power of this land and feel very connected to it and supported by it and part of it. So yeah, I feel invincible. So yeah, that's good. Woo! Long live the land! Huzzah! 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 Just went skinny dipping in my favourite place in the world to go for a swim. I'm back. The sea's so warm. I couldn't believe it. All of the places I've been swimming on the pilgrimage, skinny dipping on the pilgrimage, nothing better than skinny dipping. We're all fucking freezing, but that's because they were straight out of the land and like springs, and it's the first time I've been in the sea, and it's so good to be back in her. I missed her, and boy is she warm, so that's exciting. So lots more of that to come. Excellent. Happy days. Here's to being alive. I feel alive.